Hi there, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a EGGTASTIC Slimline Easter card featuring brand new Mama Elephant stamps and dies. We're going to be doing no line coloring with Tombow Dual Brush Markers. So I recently picked up some more of these markers. I've had a few for years and I've used them for a few techniques, but I've not done any no line coloring with them. And while I generally use my zigs, these provide just a little bit different look plus a different range of colors. I will say one of the main differences I have found is that they probably aren't quite as, I don't know how I even want to say it, like filled with water as the zigs are. Maybe they just don't have quite as much moisture to them. I don't know what it is, but I really like the results. I feel like it's a little more controlled. And because they're dual brush markers, there is a little skinny tip. I use that for the beaks on the little chicks. When you're coloring some small images, sometimes you don't want that big brush tip. And while I normally don't have any trouble with the zigs, it was kind of nice to have that option here. I used it for the legs on the chicks when I used the chocolate marker there, and it just worked really well. I am not bringing water into these. You can definitely add water to these and do a more watered colored look if you wanted to. I opted not to today simply because these are small images and I don't know that I have the control to add water to them. So I didn't. I just did the no line coloring. I did find giving the images a little bit of time before going in with my black monoliner helped a lot with not running. The little chick that's all crossed out, I did him off camera and had a little trouble with the eye running because I colored him and instantly took my black pen and colored on it, and it was not great. That kind of happens anytime with zigs as well, so I don't think that's any different. Again, it's just another option. You guys may have a ton of these Tombow markers. Like I said, they have been around forever. I have no idea what sparked my interest, but it did. So I picked up a bunch more of them because I like having a lot of colors, I guess. But I'm glad I did. I really experimented. I used quite a few different color combinations. I have listed most of those across the top of the screen at certain points here, but I have listed them out by image and what I colored on my blog post. So if you want a more detailed list and want to check that out, you can definitely do that there. I am using a blender for the kind of that third color, if you will, for most of the images. These images are all from the Mama Elephant EGGTASTIC stamp set. Great new stamp set for Easter springtime images. I love all the little bunnies and the chicks. And of course, we're pairing it with the new Slim Fancy Fence Creative Cuts dies. That's going to be a beautiful doily border. There's like some windows, I believe, and then a fence border in this set. We're going to be using the doily, the scalloped doily border, and the fence, and then we're going to grab some grass borders from the Slim Window Dressing previously released Mama Elephant set to create our scene here today. One of the things I have found that I like the best about coloring, no line coloring, with any medium that you might use, whether it's zigs, Copics, colored pencils, watercolor pencils, is I like that there's not that harsh black line. I have found myself gravitating more and more towards that lately. And I just really love it. I think especially in the finished card, it just gives a soft, beautiful look that I think works for any time, but I love it for a springtime card like this. Just with the scene that we're building, I love how soft and pretty it ends up being. I opted to use a lot of spring pastel colors for my eggs, so there's like a lot of pinks and orange, yellow, aqua, blue, and lavender. And such cute images. I think the only thing I didn't use from the stamp set is the bunny carrying the basket and maybe an individual egg and the individual paintbrush. Otherwise, I pretty much used everything from this stamp set, and this is an example of a card created with a single stamp set. Instead of pulling from many, I've only pulled from one, and I think this is a good example of maybe a more economical kind of card design as well. But you can definitely use some of these images for other cards. I know this is very Eastery, but maybe some other type of spring related cards. I don't know. The little chicks could be combined with other chicks. And I did use only one stamp set, but maybe you have previously released stamp sets from Mama Elephant. You can pull those to use with this. So look at your stamp sets, look for the bunnies and the chicks, and you can very, very easily pull those images into this and have a lot more play for Easter and spring type cards. The product you can really use for that goes multiple seasons, multiple occasions, is that slim fancy fence, because the fence can be used separately. The doily border can be used separately. The windows can be used separately. They can be used mixed and matched with other slim dies from Mama Elephant. You are not limited by a certain season or a holiday or occasion, maybe like you would be with the stamp set. So it's a fantastic basic, and it's a great addition to their slim die collection. I love them for scene building, which is one of my very favorite cards to do. And I love being able to mix and match them. The grass from the slim window dressing is probably one of my favorite. There's two different grass borders. We're only going to use kind of the straight across one today, but there are two different ones in that, so you also get a couple of options. These bunnies are so, so cute. So you'll notice I do kind of like I do with zigs. I'm tracing out the no line stamped image with my darkest marker. I'm blending out with my lighter shade, and then I'm pulling towards the center with the blender. And I'm loving how these are turning out. They're just super soft and pretty. I know I've mentioned this a lot in recent videos, but I am all about anything spring related right now. Flowers, holidays, whatever it may be. And not just in my crafting. I don't know about you guys, but I'm like eager to get my patio furniture back out that I got last summer. It didn't come in. I ordered it and it didn't come in until late. Probably wasn't even summer, it was fall, so we didn't get a ton of use out of it. We had very warm weather though, clear into almost October. I don't think I put like the cushions and things into storage until, oh gosh, I don't know, mid-October, maybe late October, early November. So I'm just looking forward to getting that stuff back out, and I've got some new things that I have purchased because I'm just all for it. I cannot wait. I want to do some like herb gardens and some planter type gardening and things like that, and anything spring related, I am here for it. So if you guys are to, let me know. I don't know, this year more than others, I am ready for spring and summer. Okay, we're going to take the coordinating dies and we're going to die cut all of these little cuties, and then we're going to do a little inking and put it all together. So off camera, I kind of die cut these, laid them out. I've also die cut the doily frame from Smooth White Cardstock twice. we're going to keep one of the rectangle panels as is, and from the other one, we're going to die cut that grass border from the slim window dressing using a grass die, and we're inking it up with a little Lawn Fawn celery stick ink. You can use any kind of green ink that you like here. This is just a nice soft green. Again, I wanted it to match the look and feel of my colored images. We are going to end up using both doily frames. So really there's not a ton of waste here. So we're saving one rectangle, and you're going to see that here now. I'm going to ink that with Mermaid and Peacock Lawn Fawn inks. That's going to be our background. Then from the other rectangle, from that doily frame, we die cut the grass, and then from the remaining part, I die cut the fence. So there wasn't any waste with that, and then we're going to stack the two frames one on top of another around our scene to give it a little bit more of a substantial look, especially with the layering of these images. Now, I say layering, but this is not a thick card at all. It is going to fit in a slimline envelope really, really well. If you have loved making slimline envelopes, how about slimline cards, and you are looking for beautiful envelopes to mail them, Simon Says Stamp has a beautiful assortment of colorful envelopes. I get asked a lot about my envelopes, what I use to mail my cards and things, and I use all Simon Says Stamp envelopes. They come in a beautiful array of colors. I love that they can kind of coordinate with my cards, especially if I'm not going to add anything extra to them. And they have slimline colorful envelopes and mini slimline colorful envelopes. So if you really are looking for something maybe a little different than the traditional white, those are some options for you. You'll notice I used a yellow one paired with this in the photos at the beginning and the end of this video. So once I have my colors inked on my background panel, I'm just going to kind of lay this out so you can see how it's going to look. Here are the pieces for our background. How pretty is that doily scalloped rectangle slimline stencil or die? It is really cute. And then I think I'm going to tuck this little bunny back behind the fence and have like a little chick standing on the fence. We'll even have some eggs and things back behind the fence. You will notice in the finished card there are two more larger eggs that I colored off camera because I felt like I needed to mix in some bigger eggs with the smaller ones. I like that there's an assortment. So we've got our bunnies and chicks coloring eggs, the chick sitting on an egg. Those are all a little bit on the bigger side. And then I stamped and die cut all those little mini eggs. Well, we're going to have a couple more big ones as well. Before we glue anything down, if at all possible, I always like to stamp my sentiments or stamp anything I'm needing to use on the card before I adhere it. There's always those times that it just doesn't work, but today I'm going to stamp two phrases from the EGGTASTIC stamp set, Have an Extra Special Day and Happy Easter, right here along the top of the card using a clear embossing ink. And we're going to heat emboss with white embossing powder. Again, that's very much so that it coordinates and complements the entire design. I don't want to have a black sentiment here on a card that is all super soft with pastels. Unfortunately, my stamping was not, even though I stamped it a couple times, I must not have pressed very well, and I didn't get a great impression. So instead of scrapping this whole panel, I am going to heat emboss this as is, and then I'm going to place it back in my MISTI. You can see, look how bad that is. I was really hoping this would work. Sometimes it doesn't. I stamped it again. I'm going to sprinkle on my embossing powder, and I got so stinking lucky because it sticks perfectly. I'm going to heat emboss it, and it doesn't even look like I had to do it twice. So I was so happy that I did not have to redo that little panel. we are ready to put everything together, which is always my favorite part. I'm going to go ahead and just stack my two doily frames one on another and take the Spellbinders Tool-in-One and poke out all the little holes in the doily frames. So they kind of stick a little bit, even though they die cut all the way through. They're just so teeny tiny, and I really want that detail to show in the doily frame. I would love to see this out of maybe some colored cardstock too, or even masking off maybe either the outer or the inner from that little stitching frame. I'm always a big fan of that contrast because that would just add another layer, making it appear to be matted even though it isn't. So that's another option, but just a really beautiful way to frame up a slimline card, kind of give it a little extra something. And it does kind of shrink in the amount of scene. Not a ton. It gives you a nice border all the way around, but it does provide a nice little, just kind of a snapshot, if you will, of that scene. I laid or adhered one of the doily frames down, and then I'm placing the center panel down. You might have seen that the background of this card was inked. I actually was going to use this card base for another card, and I ended up not using it, but I don't want to throw it away. So I'm just covering it with, I knew I would create a card at some point, a slimline, that would take up the whole card front and would hide the fact that I had started to ink my card base. You might notice that if at all possible, I try not to waste. Then I am going to place my grass down on my card, and then I slipped the fence back behind and I didn't adhere it. And that was very much on purpose because we have a lot of elements that need to be put in place. And the bunny needs to be very purposefully put in place because I don't want the fence completely covering up the eyes and the whole little bunny face. I want it to be the bunny peeking over the fence, but I still want to be able to see, you know, the cute little eyes and everything there. So the fence is actually going to be secured probably more by the images on top that have liquid glue on them. I'm putting acrylic blocks on top as I'm working to help hold those down and flat. And I'm not worrying about actually putting glue behind every little piece of this fence. I will add a few little dabs once we have all of our critters in place. By adding some elements back behind the fence, some elements back behind the grass, it just gives you that depth and dimension that makes a scene card come together. And these little chicks, I don't know what it is about them, you guys, but they have always been one of my favorite things that Mama Elephant has done. I think their little faces are just so cute. I love the little bucket as well with the paintbrushes in it. And then the paintbrushes that the bunnies are holding and the chick are holding, painting all of those fun eggs. The second doily frame will be one of the last things I end up doing. I decided to go ahead and build this first because the second frame, see how that splatter of paint kind of dips down below? I wanted the paint can to line up with the rest of the images that are sitting down along the bottom edge. So by saving that rectangle frame for last, it's going to kind of cover that up and help frame up the little line there at the bottom, so it's not kind of spilling over into the frame. Then I could not figure out where to put this little green egg. I did use some tweezers because it's going to help put it where I want it to go, hopefully, when I finally figure that out. I had a couple of little eggs that I struggled trying to find the perfect spot for them. I don't know what it was. It was all here at one time. It was the green egg, it's this yellow egg, and then I think there's an orange one that I just could not figure out where I wanted to put those guys. All right, we are going to put him there. And I like that. I don't think I ended up using all the small eggs. I think out of the 8, I ended up using 6. And I did not like that egg there. I think it looked kind of awkward back behind the bunny. So we're going to move it. I tried it over here by the pink and green egg. I don't like that. I know where I ended up putting it. By the little paint can. We're going to lift up just a corner of that and kind of have it peeking out from behind the paint can. That's where we end up putting that one. Sometimes it's a struggle. Like, I had this card in my head. I knew what I wanted to do, but it's those little finishing details that sometimes give you so much trouble. Or maybe I just overthink it too much. I really always work to kind of have a nice balance. And there's a lot going on over on that right side. So I need the left side to be a little balanced, but the left side is more, I offset the sentiments more over to the left. And so I really felt like everything needed a lot of balance. We need to add some interest to that left side so it's as colorful and fun as the right. But we about have everything where we need it to go. I think we just have maybe 1 or 2 more little eggs, and then we'll pop on the last frame. A little tip about adhering the doily frame. So I don't want adhesive back behind the little die cut dots, the doily part. I used really skinny 1/8 inch adhesive, double-sided adhesive strips. And if you put it right next to the opening of the doily frame, it's not going to show through those holes, which worked really, really well. So I'll show you. We're going to just flip that over and put a little adhesive on the back of this and then pop it in place. So here is a look at our finished card. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this EGGTASTIC Slimline Easter card featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Mama Elephant products that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.